Hello everyone, we're back. It's season 12, episode 1 of the Ubuntu podcast. We're here again to delight your eardrums. It's Tuesday the 9th of April and I'm joined by the gruesome twosome, Alan.
Hello.
And Martin.
Hello.
How are you two then?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Well rested after our extended break?
I'd like to say yes, but I've been burning the candle at both ends, so not really, no, a bit exhausted.
Oh dear, how about you, Alan?
Yeah, I'm well rested. Yeah, I've had a birthday and I've got beer and I've had a holiday and everything. Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, I'm well rested.
Perfect. Well, we had a bit of a chat a week ago or two. So, Martin, since we had our chat, what have you been doing with yourself?
I have been experimenting with a PCI Express card that you plug two SATA SSDs into.
Okay.
And then stick that in your computer to add more storage to your computer.
So is this if you've used all of the SATA headers on your motherboard already, but you want more?
Yes. And in fact, it's that with bells on. So the killer feature for this one is some of these cards that you can buy. You buy these cards, you plug a couple of SATA drives in, but then you often need to plug a power cable or a SATA cable into the card itself to deliver power or connectivity. Whereas this card is completely clean. It just plugs into a single lane PCI Express slot and it has two SATA SSDs on it.
Right. Oh, I see. So you plug the drive directly into the card, including the power for the drive.
Yeah. So it takes the power off the PCI bus.
Please, sir, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm used to laptops that have PCMCIA cards. What's a PCI and PCs that have ISA cards?
Sorry, PCMCIA?
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot of old ThinkPads, haven't I? And PCs that have PCI slots and Visa Local Bus and EISA.
Yeah, all of those.
What's PCI Express specifically?
PCI Express is the newer generations of the PCI slot, which were also called in the past AGP and Visa Local Bus and EISA and ISA.
Are these the tiny little connector?
Well, they're different sizes depending on how many lanes are exposed. Right. So this is a teeny tiny one because it's only got a single PCI lane that's allocated to it. But something like a graphics card is, a longer slot because it has 16 lanes and lots more power and what have you.
So did you have success with this new card thing?
I really did. Yeah, I really did. It exceeded expectations. So I had a couple of spare SSDs knocking around, which I initially tried it with. Yeah, as you do. And I was delighted to find that they were individually addressable and even showed up in my boot menu so I could install an OS on them and then boot off them, which was just fabulous.
How are these arranged in your case? Do you just are they sort of in line with the PCI slot or are they sticking out at 90 degrees?
It's like a 3/4 length PCI card and the drives are mounted along the length of the card, facing away from each other.
Right. So sort of sitting on top of it.
Yeah. So the connectors are in the center of the board.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And then the two drives are facing away from one another. And because they're thin SSDs, 2.5-inch SSDs, it's all very low profile and quite sleek.
So it all sort of fits into the profile of like a graphics card sized thing.
Thinner than that even, yeah.
I was just picturing them being perpendicular to the card.
Yeah,
and that would make them somewhat ludicrous inside of any computer case, but quite fun.
Yeah, no, and so one of the things I've used this for is now I've actually I took the original discs off that I'd got spare and I've got new drives to go on it now. So I've got a pair of 512 gigabyte drives, and I've kind of recreated a little hack that you did last year with Dropbox, Popey.
Oh yeah,
where you created an ext sparse file. Sparse file, like formatted it ext4 and then told Dropbox that's where you live. I have formatted one of these drives ext4 and then mounted it in my home directory under the folder Dropbox.
Gotcha.
So the rest of my file systems are all XFS except for this one directory effectively, which is ext4 that's mounted in the right place. So that's one of the drives that I'm using that for. And the other I'm using as a scratch disk to boot different distros off.
You know what you should have done?
Go on.
delete Dropbox and use SyncThing instead.
Well, the thing is, I am using SyncThing as well, but unfortunately, for reasons, family commitments and what have you, I have to have a Dropbox in order to...
Hear that, Alan? He considers us family. Anyway, I think it's time we moved on with the show. And now it's time for a roundup of the community news and events. Alan, what's first up in the community news?
First up, we've got the UBPorts Foundation is ready for launch. This was an announcement that came out from the UBPorts people recently. And for those people who've been living under a rock for a while, UBPorts is the community-maintained version of Ubuntu for phones. So what previously you might have called Ubuntu Touch. And when Canonical no longer supported Ubuntu Touch, that was 2 years ago now, April 2017. The community picked it up, the UBPorts community, and they've been working on it for the last 2 years, and they've gained support for new devices, and they've done loads of underpinnings that you might not notice, but is all super important, as with all these kind of technical projects. But now they've just announced that they've got a foundation. And the foundation, the UBPorts Foundation, allows them to do some of the, more serious work and accept donations and make it easier for them to be like a formal organization rather than a loose bunch of hackers who hang out in a Telegram channel, which is kind of what it looked like previously.
I was really surprised to see the size of their community as well.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is when you consider that this is a niche of a niche community, right? The Linux users generally, in the desktop sense are small in number, but they've got over 2,000 people who are active in their community.
Wow.
Who really are running, devices old and new, running UBPorts. And we do bump into some of these people from time to time at various events and what have you. And the community members are as enthusiastic as the people behind UBPorts itself. A really thriving community.
Yeah, it's really good to see. And I think it's good that that since Canonical no longer maintains it, it was picked up really quickly by UBPorts, but also the fact that it's carried on. It wasn't, how often when a company that's maintaining something and then they say, we're going to stop working on this and refocus our efforts somewhere else. Often it's like, everyone moves on to another thing.
Someone makes a GitHub fork of it and then it dies instantly.
Right, exactly. And people create their own forks, and you often get like 3 or 4 forks all over the place and everyone's really excited, and then actually no one coalesces around anything. With this, they've managed to keep everyone together in one community. And I think that's really, really well done for the people who have been the public face of UBPorts.
That said, there does seem to be an uptick in successful continuation projects these days. There's been a number in recent years that have, sort of been poo-pooed widely as they've bootstrapped themselves, but have then gone on to sort of establish themselves and, maintain projects.
I assume you're talking about Dev1.
Yeah, Dev1's a good example, actually. I think, and I would count myself in the group of people that poo-pooed Dev1's efforts at the outset, because I couldn't imagine why you would want to do this. But yeah, they're going from strength to strength these days.
Yeah, it's good. I think there's certainly been lessons learned about how other projects have forked and built new communities. And I think people have maybe learned some lessons about how not to do that. Perhaps, maybe it's just a different set of people with, who don't have the same, grumpiness that goes along with and sour, faces that we have about the history. Maybe they're, young and fresh faced, and, let's not make them feel like, oh man, that's going nowhere, that sentence. I don't know.
Anyway, next up in the news, Ubuntu 14.04.6 is out. That's the final point release of Ubuntu 14.04. So if you're hoping to get updates from here on in, you'll probably be out of luck. You should upgrade to a newer LTS, unless you are an Ubuntu Advantage customer, in which case you can get extended security maintenance.
This is true. And also 14.04.6 was an atypical release because usually the point releases end at 5 for Ubuntu releases.
Right.
But this one was required because of a vulnerability that was discovered in apt itself, in fact. Yes. So the ISOs were respun.
Yes. So, well, I mean, yeah. So it's been, what, 4.5 years? No, 5 years since 14.04.
5 years, yeah.
We still get people telling us they're using Ubuntu 14.04.
Yeah.
People are really sticky on the old LTSs. They really like them. And it's not necessarily that they don't want what we're offering in 16.04 or 18.04. It's just, the system works, and maybe it's too much disruption to them to go through the upgrade, and it's just easier to stay where they are. And yeah, we'd love them to move. We'd be fine if they moved up to 16.04 or 18.04. That'd be great. But some people just don't want to for whatever reasons, whether it's business reasons or, they're wedded to something that works on some old release.
On the desktop, it strikes me as a little more unusual to stick to an old release for such a long time, but I know there are people out there that do it. We certainly have evidence to support that. And I wonder if that's testament to, maintaining browsers, current versions of browsers in Ubuntu, because if you do so much of your stuff in a browser these days, that's pretty much all you need to have a usable system.
Yeah, I'm still running 14.04 on my Joggler, I believe. Huh. Because all that has to do is run Kodi, really.
I only recently upgraded from 14.04 on my ThinkPad X220 to 16.04 and then 18.04, and then I upgraded all the way through to 19.04. So it's done a leap of 5 years in about a month. Yeah.
So speaking of 19.04, Martin, what's up next?
Well, the 19.04 betas were released a few days ago. So all of the Ubuntu flavors and the official version of Ubuntu for the desktop and servers and what have you. So this is the Disco Dingo. It's my favorite code name ever, I think, for an Ubuntu release. So on the desktop, all the usual updates in terms of new kernel. So it's a version 5 kernel and current version of GNOME, which now features fractional scaling support for high DPI screens, and the uplift in all of the underlying applications as well. So your web browsers and your Office suites and all the rest of it. But most importantly, I think in terms of, the Ubuntu desktop team is they've put a lot of effort into the fractional scaling, but also addressing some of the performance issues that have been cited around GNOME Shell. And I haven't tried this out myself, but I hear it's much improved. Have either of you tried out 19.04 yet?
Yes, I have it on 2 machines here. The X220 I mentioned just moments ago is running 19.04. And it's certainly 19.04 performs better than previous versions of GNOME Shell. It was funny when I dug the X220 out and it was running 14.04, I forgot how fast Unity is. And I was a little sad to upgrade all the way through and then switch to, because I wanted to keep it on defaults. So I switched to GNOME Shell, and I did feel that GNOME Shell was a bit sluggish, and it's well known and widely reported that that's the case. But yeah, 19.04 does feel faster. I don't know, whether they've just made animations move faster or what. I know the desktop team have reported in their weekly updates on the Ubuntu discourse some of the things that they've done. I don't necessarily understand most of those bug reports, but it all looks like it's moving in the right direction. And I have another machine. It's got an NVIDIA GPU in it, and that one feels faster as well than 18.04. So yeah, it's going in the right direction. I think there's still some work to do. I think GNOME Shell to me still feels slower than Unity, but other people have reported that it runs acceptably fast for them. So that's cool.
That's good. Do you still have, where you've upgraded through all the versions, do you still have Unity available to do a side-by-side comparison?
I don't know if I still have Unity installed, actually. I don't know if it got removed along the way. I've not tried. It might actually still be there and just, not the default session. That's entirely possible. I could switch to Unity and have a look and see what it feels like. But it's a different user experience, Yes. You could certainly compare how long it takes to draw the GNOME terminal window on the screen, or how long it takes for the dash to appear, or the applications window to appear, or notifications, but they're all completely different. So it's hard to point the finger, really.
Right.
Next up, Ubuntu MATE, 1804 and 1904 for the GPD Pocket, and the Pocket 2 are available. Images are available. Who could possibly have worked on this?
I know a guy.
When you said earlier that you've been burning the candle at both ends, could this have anything to do with it?
Yes, this is what I've been burning the candle at both ends over the past weekend and the last couple of evenings. So I prepared images for the GPD Pocket and Pocket 2 in October for 1810, and I was able to do that because of the hardware support that was in the 1810 release. And so since we've had the 1804.2 come out, whose hardware enablement stack is based on that of 1810, I thought, right, now's the time to update these images. So I spun new images for 1804 for both devices, and also with 1904 just being around the corner, prepared 1904 images as well. So GPD Pocket users, rejoice. You've now got 3 versions of Ubuntu to choose from, and they're all green.
Excellent.
Awesome. And at the third end of the candle, Ubuntu MATE 1804 Beta 1 is also out for the Raspberry Pi.
It is. I know. Go over that as well. That was a lot more midnight oil burning, that one. Yeah, I've been working on that for about a month. And I'm really happy with that. So yes, a couple of years ago, we released 1604 images for the Raspberry Pi. And before that, we were doing them for 1510 and 1504. Cool. But doing the interims is really hard work. So we just do the LTSs now. And it was time to rev that. And thanks to the great work that the Foundations team have done at Canonical with improving the support and compatibility of Ubuntu on the Raspberry Pi, it made this a lot easier in order to actually stand up like the base operating system. Mm-hmm. But then it still required a lot of jigging and poking to get things like video acceleration working and things like VLC and FFmpeg and what have you. But I'm really happy with those. We've had some good feedback, not many show-stopping bugs, and I think we'll get a final release out very soon.
Cool. And we have a few events. Linux Fest Northwest is happening April 26th to the 28th in Bellingham Technical College in
Washington State.
Washington, USA. I just had WA, I had to guess. The 6th UK Open Source Awards is happening on the 12th of June in Edinburgh in Scotland. They have various categories, including individual, company, public third sector, and diversity categories. Nominations close Monday, 22nd of April, if you'd like to nominate a person or project or something. The event features what looks like a really cool afternoon of talks and panel sessions with the awards in the evening, and I think it's free to go to. You can find out more on the UK Open Source Awards website, which is opensourceawards.org. And the final event is FOSS Talk Live, which is June the 8th, 2019 at the Harrison Pub near King's Cross in London, where we will be doing a live podcast with special surprises.
Oh, really? I didn't know we were doing special surprises.
You did.
Did I?
I think it's an extravaganza, remember?
Oh, no, it's definitely not an extravaganza.
Well, Martin will be surprised even if no one else
I'm going to be genuinely surprised. I don't remember these production meetings at all. There's another, that top event, Popey. Are you going to Linux Fest Northwest by any chance?
Yeah, I thought we were going to mention that, but okay. Yes, we are going to Linux Fest Northwest, the one in Bellingham Technical College, Washington, USA. So me and Martin are flying out there, and we're going to give a couple of talks and stuff, and we may well see you all there. Well, not all of you, some of you, I would imagine.
Right, that's all for the community news and events this week. And now it's time for some regular news. Martin, what's up first?
Well, I'm delighted to say that Valve have got some news which is right in my wheelhouse. It's all about virtual reality. This is my absolute favourite subject. So
brilliant. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, so Valve have announced accidentally and then withdrawn a website showing Valve Index, which is a VR headset that they are apparently going to release possibly this year at some point. And it looks like it's something like the HTC Vive, but from Valve. So it's a wear on your head goggles set that you plug into your computer.
Okay.
And there is allegedly Linux support, but then again, the Linux support in the screenshot was right next to a load of lorem ipsum boilerplate. So everything, including the date that it's going to be released, could be completely bogus.
They have confirmed some of the details in various places since then. So the Gaming on Linux site contacted them because one of the things on this webpage was the system requirements for SteamOS and Linux, and so they got confirmation that it is in fact going to work with Linux as well.
Are you going to sign up and buy one, pre-order one, Martin?
I might surprise you here. It's possible that I may. And I'm not being sarcastic.
It depends whether they accept Bitcoin.
No, it doesn't depend whether they support Bitcoin. So listeners to the show may remember that I like racing games almost exclusively. And at Christmas, I got a steering wheel. So I've now got a steering wheel and gear stick and pedals and all the stuff. A friend of mine has that and a VR headset. And that may have convinced me that for that one use case of playing driving simulators, I could be convinced that a VR headset is actually not such a stupid idea, because you don't have to move around.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't fall over. You wouldn't get the
motion sickness thing, would you? Because you're used to sitting in a car with everything moving around you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for that use case alone, I'm prepared to possibly maybe. So I'm going to see what the extent of the Linux support is, and if any of the driving games that I'm remotely interested in ship with support for this, then yes, I may get one.
Interesting.
Next up, the UK government's Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport has proposed an independent watchdog to regulate social media.
What?
So, yeah, this is a proposal to have a watchdog that creates a code of practice which social media companies are expected to abide by to prevent online harms.
The UK government came up with this, did they?
It seems like it, yes.
Yeah, they'll never agree how to do it.
Well, it'll take them 2.5, maybe 3 years to decide how to do it, and then not actually do it, and then go and ask for help.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not bothered about this. I've come to the conclusion the UK government is crippled and incapable of getting anything done. So this is fine.
Well, this is a particular department, so civil servants are actually going to be doing the work. It's not actually going to require the government to.
It's not going to require MPs.
I don't think so. No.
I mean, we should all worry then. This looks like an awful thing that's going to happen to us.
One interesting thing that was mentioned in this was that if there's a proposal that if a company were to breach this code of practice, as well as having fines levied against the company, and they're talking like GDPR level fines, the company executives could be held personally responsible as well, which kind of tallies with one of my predictions about a Facebook executive being prosecuted by a government. This seems like the sort of vehicle that could lead to that. Now,
I believe in some countries that's already the case. I might be wrong about that, but listeners in other countries, if you are in a country where that is a case, do let us know.
Yes. And does it work?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think it all remains to be seen with that, whether it happens, whether it works, how it happens, and so on. So I expect we'll come back to this in the future. Alan, what's next?
Well, did you know the Global Positioning System, otherwise known as GPS, has a rollover that happened recently? Nothing to do with the National Lottery, but it's
not a good rollover then.
It turns out that GPS had a similar thing to the Y2K problem where numbers rolled over, and certain older GPS devices might not take too kindly to that. And I only realized this when, over the weekend, I started seeing people publishing photos on social media of really old GPS devices and saying mine still works. And I was thinking, what? Why are all these people getting out their Garmin E-Trex things and turning them on and showing me that they work? Why is this appearing in my timeline? And it turns out there's a good reason for that. The GPS spec, when it launched, or within the spec, dates were stored not as DDMMYY, like in Y2K, but they're stored as a 10-bit number, which increments every week. And the weeks started on the 6th of January, 1980, and kept on incrementing every week. And it's already rolled over once in 1999, and it did it again on April the 6th. And obviously it will do it again every, whatever that is, 20 years or so. And it will keep doing that. And people with crusty old devices might find that their GPS is unreliable until it refreshes data, or might not work at all. But most modern GPSs are fine because they get software updates, don't they?
Yes. So basically they need an update to say week 0 is now this date rather than the previous date.
Some of them, the US Department for Homeland Security said, what did they say? They said tests of some GPS devices revealed that not all manufacturer implementations correctly handle the April the 6th, 2019 rollover. Additionally, some manufacturer implementations interpret the week number parameter relative to a date other than January the 5th, 1980.
Great.
These devices should or should not be affected by the week number rollover on that date, but may experience a similar rollover event at a future date, which is great. Specifications, eh? Aren't they marvellous?
30-year-old specifications at that.
Yeah. I thought it was quite cool. And that explained why I kept seeing these GPSs popping up on Twitter.
Well, roll on 2038.
Yes.
And that is all the news for this week.
We know you've got a Facebook account, so stop sharing cat photos for a moment and like or share our posts so your friends and family can find the Ubuntu podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Laura. And that's all for episode 1. Well, that didn't go too badly for a first time back.
Feeling a bit rusty. It's strange just taking a little bit of time off. It really throws your stride off, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Maybe we should just do it every week.
That would.
Yeah. No, I like our break. I've really enjoyed having a bit of time off to do other things.
I tell you what it is. We probably didn't eat enough curry this time.
Yes,
true.
That was it.
Mid-season curry.
Yes, definitely.
Ooh.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week where we will be discussing my new streaming box, and I think we're bringing you some command line love. So that'll be good. Bye.